Hi guys, and welcome to Castle's Corner. Coach Castle back again with a new video for you. In today's video it'll be the red pills of resistance, and we'll be talking about the front deltoid or the anterior deltoid. Now before we get into that, I would like to address why I have so named this series the red pills of resistance. It goes back to the Matrix, where Neo takes the red pill and he discovers everything is a lie, so on and so forth. Now, the reason I say that is because the truth is often stranger than fiction. In this case, everything you've ever heard about exercise is very wrong. So, using biomechanics, or how physics affects anatomy, scientifically breaking down the process of exercise, we know that there is only one perfect movement for every muscle, and only one perfect resistance curve, one perfect everything. So, in this series, I address all these points so you all can train better, make gains faster, recover better, and have no pain. That's the point of biomechanics. So if you're ready to take that red pill, let's go ahead and get into the front deltoids, and I'll be covering the best 5 exercises as well as some of the subpar variants which you guys know and why they're not as good. So let's get into it. Now the deltoids are often referred to simply as the shoulders, which indicates the 3 deltoid heads, or the front head, the lateral head, and the rear head. Now, each of these heads has a separate function or direction of movement, although there can be a little bit of overlap. So, for example, a movement may use the front deltoid as well as the lateral deltoid to perform like a diagonal lift, as well as another movement may use the rear deltoid and the lateral deltoid, same thing, diagonally, kind of using them together. Now, when it comes to these particular heads, you want to try to minimize the involvement of the other head as much as possible. So each one has a very specific movement which minimizes the movement of all other heads. Now, I've already covered the ideal direction of movement for the lateral deltoid. I'll be getting to the rear deltoid soon. This is the front deltoid. So the front deltoid, or the anterior deltoid, it originates on the upper half of your clavicle, and its insertion is on the deltoid tuberosity on the humerus, right next to the insertion of the lateral deltoid. It's actually a little bit underneath it, and the lateral deltoid goes over top. Now, the anterior deltoid participates in any movement where the humerus is pulled forward and or upward towards the clavicle, where the muscle originates. Now, this includes all chest exercises, plus parallel bar dip, overhead presses, and even some bicep exercises if the humerus is brought forward. These all involve a large percentage of the front deltoid, but it is not in the safest or the most productive way. So then you might be asking yourself, so what is the ideal direction of movement for the anterior deltoid? Or in other words, what movement works this muscle more efficiently and more safely than any other movement? Because again, it's not beneficial if it hurts you. So, following the guidelines of biomechanics, or muscles always pulled towards their origin, imagine the insertion of the muscle being pulled directly towards the muscle origin, and in a simple and straightforward manner as possible, or a straight line. That would produce a movement that takes the humerus from a starting point somewhere alongside the torso, forward and slightly upward, moving towards the muscle origin on the clavicle. Now, the stretch position for the anterior deltoid is with the humerus angling back at approximately 40 degrees from the torso. In previous videos, I mentioned how parallel bar dips overstretch the anterior deltoids. Now here, you can see the upper arm angling posteriorly almost 90 degrees to the torso. That is too much for a reasonable anterior deltoid stretch. The ideal amount of angling of the humerus for a reasonable amount of anterior deltoid stretch is about 40 degrees backwards from vertical. The point of contraction for the anterior deltoids is a bit further forward and upward than one can achieve when doing parallel bar dips, but not as far as is demonstrated in the standing barbell front raise. Now, the ideal point of contraction, where the range of motion should conclude for an ideal anterior deltoid exercise, is somewhere around 70 degrees forward from vertical. Now the exercise I'll be showing you is the seated front deltoid cable press. This is the best exercise for achieving the ideal range of motion, both in the stretched position and in the contracted position. It also favors the early phase loading, or the mechanical disadvantage being stronger in the beginning and weaker in the end. And the loading to the humerus is perpendicular to the cable, so it's early in the range of motion. And it also provides the opposite position loading, of course. The anterior deltoid is positioned directly opposite the direction of resistance. Now, you'll notice that my elbows are kept close to my side, moving straight forward and straight back. That is the ideal pathway of the anterior deltoid muscle, parallel to those fibers. This is the most natural direction of movement for the anterior deltoid because it causes the muscle insertion on the deltoid tuberosity attached to the humerus to move directly towards the muscle origin on the lateral aspect of the clavicle from a stretched position in the simplest possible way, or a straight line. It's very simple. This elbows in pathway of the arms also minimizes the participation of the pectorals, which would otherwise dominate the recruitment and deprive the anterior deltoids of getting a full load. So, the elbows wide pathway is the primary track of the pectorals because the motion would be parallel to the pectoral fibers, but the humerus would be moving towards the sternum where the pectoral origins are situated. Now remember, muscles always pull towards their origin. They can't do anything else except pull towards their origin, efficiently or inefficiently. Notice also that the palms up grip, which allows the humerus to be rotated externally, thereby allowing the anterior front deltoids to be positioned opposite the resistance. Now, conversely, the standing barbell front deltoid raise exercise is typically done with the palms down grip, which rotates the humerus internally. That internal rotation causes the lateral deltoid to be positioned more opposite resistance than the anterior deltoid, meaning the lateral deltoid is loaded more than the front deltoid. It is essential for opposite position loading that the anterior deltoid be positioned directly opposite the resistance, and that occurs best with the palms up grip with the humerus externally rotated. The starting position of the seated anterior deltoid cable press begins with a mostly active lever, which is indicated by the angle of the cable relative to the humerus. It's perpendicular to it. This allows the anterior deltoid to be loaded more at the beginning of the range of motion, where the muscle has more strength potential, the mechanical disadvantage, where 9 times the amount of force is being pushed into the joint to get the muscle movement started. The resistance then diminishes as the humerus moves forward and becomes more parallel with the cable. That is where the anterior deltoid contracts and the strength potential diminishes. Conversely, the standing barbell front raise begins with a mostly inactive lever. The humerus is parallel with gravity, therefore there's no load, and it ends overstretched. Thus, no part of the deltoids, neither the anterior head nor the lateral head, are loaded in this early phase, even though this early phase is where they have the greatest strength potential. Then, once the arms are moved forward, they begin encountering perpendicularness with gravity. It's not the anterior deltoids that are being more loaded because they are not the muscle that is mostly positioned opposite gravity. It is actually the lateral deltoids. Also, your erector spinal is taking a lot of load when you jerk the weight up, and it's not even meant to be a back exercise. Now, these 3 factors disqualify the standing barbell front raise as a good exercise. It's quite terrible, actually. And lastly, because the seated cable front press is done in the vertical position, and the resistance is coming from behind, perpendicular to the torso, instead of from below or parallel to the torso, there is no load on the lower back, the erector spinal, as there would be with the standing barbell front raise. When setting up the pulleys for the seated cable front press, it is important that they be at the right height and also the right width apart. This allows perfect alignment between the direction of resistance and the direction of arm movement, the origin and the insertion of the anterior deltoids. If you do not have access to cables, another good alternative to this seated anterior deltoid cable press would be a lying front deltoid press. What you would do is very simple. Get a bench, you lay down yourself flat, exactly as you would with cables. Keep your hands over your belly button, palms facing you, and of course your forearms should be parallel with gravity the whole movement. Now the fact that the arms are bent during the front deltoid press doesn't make a bit of difference, as the arms don't know what the elbows are doing. It makes no difference whatsoever to them. They don't have a brain. All that they know is that the front deltoid needs to lift the humerus. Now here are several cues to make sure that the exercise is being done correctly, whether you're using dumbbells or you're using cables. So if you're using cables, make sure that they are shoulder width apart. That's your alignment. Make sure that the resistance is mostly perpendicular with the humerus at the beginning of the range of motion. So it's early phase loaded. Make sure that the motion of the arms is such that the humerus travels alongside the torso as close as possible, moving the operating lever towards the muscle origin. Make sure the anterior deltoids are opposite position loaded, so elbows in tight and the palms up. Now, here are the best front deltoid exercises in descending order. Exercise number 1, of course, would be the cable front press seated, assuming you have access to this type of pulley system and you don't make the time and trouble to set it up. The second best would be the standing, bent over, cable front press. The direction would be originate above you and you'd push down. The third best would be the supine, or the flat bench dumbbell front press. The distance would be the dumbbells. The fourth would be a slight decline bench dumbbell front press, meaning you'd have a slight decline angle at it. And the fifth best would be a slight incline bench dumbbell front press, again, slight angle. Now those are the best ones, period, end of story. They are the most efficient. I hope that this video helps. If it did, please give it a like. Share, comment, and subscribe if I'm doing good work. Please, trying to make more of these videos to help you guys. Everything you guys have heard and read in the magazines is wrong and unscientific. You use science in your life every day anyways. Why don't you start using it with your training instead of just following the blind? It really is the blind leading the blind. Take the time, learn the information, and even fact-check me. I could be mistaken. Not about this, but I could be wrong about other things. So everyone, have a great day.